how much blame do you think, and is it fair, Josh? There's been a lot of blame placed on Harry Maguire specifically. Is that warranted? Is it fair, or is he just being scapegoated? And actually, I think we can all agree it's a collective issue. But should there be so much emphasis on him specifically? And is it just because he's the captain and defensively they're just being so poor?
Yeah, I think at times he doesn't help himself. I think before the game he had an interview with Sky and he said, I've been picked by both managers that have been here this year. I can't think of a player who's performed in a United shirt this year. Maybe De Gea, possibly Fred. Maguire's been poor. And if you're captain of Man United and you're not performing, you shouldn't be coming out making these interviews and making these statements. I think the criticism that he gets and Paul Pogba gets kind of from the same kind of brush where he wasn't worth 80 million. That was an error from the club to spend that money. So it was always going to be difficult for him to, live up to the heights of, say, someone like Virgil van Dijk, who went for 75 million. They're in a different world in terms of their abilities. But I don't think he's a poor defender. I think it's OTT. But the reason I compare him to Paul Pogba is because a lot of United fans look at Harry Maguire as, why is he our captain? He's rubbish. Why is he bought? He's a symbol of kind of the decline. Then there's another section of United fans who just think Paul Pogba's overrated. He's never performed. He's overpaid. He's an 89 million flop. So I think them two are quite easy targets. But at times I think they've performed in their times at United. I don't think they've hit their heights. I don't think they've been their best. We've seen them perform better for their national sides in England and France. But they're easy targets. He stepped up for the first goal, but there's a lot of defensive issues there. There's a lot of the setup's poor. Someone like Bruno Fernandes gives the ball away every minute. He gets the ball and he hammers it, So I think it's just easy for also, not necessarily rival fans, but people outside the club to look at it. But we saw today reports of a bomb scare or someone sent him an email that there was a bomb potentially planted at his house. It's good there was nothing found. It's just a bit OT. Honestly, the club needs the season to end and for this new manager to come in and make his judgment on certain players to stay or go. I never really agreed with him being captain. I don't think he's conducted himself well, but I do also feel he's, he is targeted and he could have a good game. For example, Norwich was excellent, but no one says nothing, and he goes to Anfield, you're playing a very good, Diaz, Mane, Salah. These are players that a week ago, not only twice in a week, destroyed, Manchester City defenders who are apparently the best in there. Not apparently, but they are. If you look at the Premier League table. So you've got to look at the opposition. You've got to look at it game by game. But Maguire has struggled this season and, the criticism is definitely justified.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's interesting you said about Bruno Fernandes because he was like kind of the second coming, wasn't he? About a year ago, like he was banging goals and assists left, right, centre. But
yeah, I mean everybody's dropped off in the last year. I think it was when it was kind of lockdown football and he came in and we had a really good run. I think under Oli, that was probably our best time. He was sort of the saviour. But when Paul Pogba came, I think I think you've talked to any United fan, the lack of signing a defensive midfielder really, really hurt us because Bruno, he loves to risk. He loves the risk. He loves to throw a ball forward. And sometimes it pulls off and it's great. But if it doesn't, you have a turnover position. And when you haven't got that defensive midfielder to secure a already failing defence, it's gonna cause you problems. But he's an example of most players that come to United. You start well for a couple months, couple weeks, and then soon you fall into a pattern and you're struggling and it all eats you up.
Yeah, no, very well said. This is all very dour as well.
It's the signs of the times at the moment, it's you get used to it. You get used to it.
It is crazy though. I mean, it's interesting because I guess Manchester United and I know Gary Neville says it all the time, but they are. You just think about how big a club they are, and of course, there's he'll say there's failures left, right, and centre, etc. And obviously, Rangnick came in, and everyone's always going to sort it out. And obviously, you had Mourinho, and then Oli, and all these managers have come in and come and gone really, and it hasn't. Nothing's. I don't feel like Manchester United are anywhere better off since like Ferguson left. I mean, they're worse off, right? I mean, every single manager's come in. There's been peaks and troughs at times, but I just feel like it's never really had. Well, you just haven't had any stability. To be fair.
It's always going to be difficult to replace someone who's been at a club for 27 years and be so successful as well. I think maybe the first appointment wasn't the right appointment. David Moyes, maybe him coming in and sacking his backroom staff. We can look at the last 10 years in hindsight and say this was wrong, this was
Yeah.
not right. But I do think you're correct. It has not been stable. At times, it's been okay, like you're saying. Van Gaal hit some heights. Solskjaer definitely steadied the ship. I think Mourinho is probably the worst out of the lot in terms of the damage he did to the club and in terms of the morale of the players, and that was something that was united the fans. But you look at Liverpool; it took them 30 years to get to that place where they are now. And we're talking about quadruples, we're talking about champagne football. So I know will be around at a time where they were struggling to even finish top four. So I think it ebbs and flows. The problem for United is that you want to have that stability. You want to have that, a couple of years where, like Chelsea, for example. I think Chelsea suffer from at this season just being in their own little bubble. Being third. So you have performances like Arsenal and Brentford because you really have nothing to play for in the league. You're not going to catch up with City and Liverpool. You're not going to fall off from, going to the level of Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United. And I think that's something that United need to get to, that level of stability, so that you can look towards City and City and Liverpool, because we're not going to catch them in 2 to 3 years. It will take time.
Yeah, I agree. I like the backhanded compliment to Liverpool as well. 30 years.
But I think Carragher makes a good point. You're never as far as you think you are. But Liverpool, everybody talks how great they are at the moment, and rightly so. They've got a great manager. They've got a great team, and it pains me to say these things, but these are the facts. Yeah, it's a very good, a very likable team. I think their first 11 is probably stronger than City's. Thiago's now stepped up. But it wasn't like that 10 years ago. They had Charlie Adam in the midfield, had Roy Hodgson. It takes time, and that's the truth. And that's not even me criticising them or making any digs towards it. But I've seen it flip very quickly, and I think Liverpool fans should be well aware, and I think they are. Not a dig at them, but they'll know that United. I think even Klopp said it after the game. We'll be back, and I think that's something that Gary Neville has said in the last few weeks, and I don't agree with Gary Neville everything he says. Probably that's the only thing I do agree with, is I do think we'll come back, and it might not even be Ten Hag, but I think we're too big for us to disappear. We're not built on oil money or maybe an owner who may get sanctioned or not. We are built through our success on the pitch, and that's why we are the biggest clubs in the country. So look, it's not a nice where we are at the moment, but it can always change. But right now, yes, we're crying out for stability for sure.
Yeah, no, agreed. Before we move on from Manchester United and this really rosy topic, Ten Hag being appointed, Josh, are you, as a Manchester United fan, I guess more from a personal point of view, are you happy that he's been appointed? And also, do you know much about him? Do you think he's a good fit?
Yeah, I think it's the first time post-Fergie that Manchester United have hired a manager that is on the up, that is on someone who is, you would say, is one of the top European coaches outside the Premier League. I think the most important thing for Manchester United is this is the first summer without Ed Woodward. Now, this is someone who's made, done the real damage. When Ferguson stepped down, we lost David Gill as well. Those are two influential people to the football club. We got someone who had no idea about football, was a banker that brokered the deal for the Glazers to get the football club. And this is the most important thing. So the last 18 months or so, United have changed their structure. They've implemented this guy called John Murtagh, who used to work for Everton, and he joined Manchester United, funny enough, when David Moyes came. And now he's director of football. He's working alongside Darren Fletcher. And you're already seeing the moves that he's made, i.e. we never would have brought in someone like Ralf Rangnick if Ed Woodward was still in charge. We probably have gone for Conte, someone who's quick fix, quick. Someone who's just going to give us a title, give us a championship. Oh, we lost 5-0 to Liverpool. We lost 2-0 to City. Oh, we need to bring Conte. What we've done now, we've kind of streamlined our structure to be able to bring someone like a Ten Hag and give him time. Now, him personally, I think he's the right appointment. I think he's someone that, if you look at our squad, probably minimum 10 players will leave in the summer. So we need a lot of players to come in, but we've also got a young nucleus. You look at someone like Marcus Rashford, he's not that player we've seen in the last 8-9 months. You just don't lose that. Someone like Anthony Martial maybe needs proper coaching. Jadon Sancho, even Hannibal that's come through. There's a lot of good youngsters that we have in our academy, and I think he's able to unlock that. Is he going to bridge the gap from City and Liverpool? We have to wait and see. It's a challenge for him. He's not managed in the Premier League. We've seen the last manager that's come from Ajax, in Frank de Boer, lose the 6 games in a row. I don't think that'll happen, but it's a possibility. And I think a lot of United fans prefer Ten Hag over Pochettino, because Pochettino, we've kind of seen that movie at Spurs and Tottenham. He's kind of coached, he's kind of lived that experience. Whereas Ten Hag, he's won a few titles in Holland. He's going to come over to the Premier League. And even with Thomas Tuchel, you saw the effect he did when Lampard was sacked and he came in. Not only did he win the Champions League, we're winning a lot of football games quickly. And I think with Ten Hag, it's the right appointment for now, where the club's going off the field, for the profile players we want. Maybe not getting Ronaldo was the right thing. Falcao, Sanchez, all these kind of Di Maria, these all Ed Woodward sort of, we need just a name. And I think we are changing. If you look at the last 18 months. So we have to wait and see, give him time. But I'm personally happy with the appointment. I don't think he's our saviour, because I don't believe that there's such thing. I don't think Pep or Klopp comes into for us and wins us a title. We have, fundamental problems. But over time, if it goes well, and if it does, then we're in luck in a couple of years. If it doesn't, we'll just go out and get Pochettino. Is
his style of football kind of like akin to what Manchester United are looking for? What type of style?
It's attacking football. It's the typical Dutch total football. For most listeners to kind of get an idea of what he's produced. He produced really two good Ajax sides in the last few years, and obviously it's funny Poch knocked him out on away goals in 2019. The season that Liverpool beat Spurs in 2019 in Madrid. He worked under Pep Guardiola. He was the head coach for Bayern Munich's second team before going to Ajax. He actually worked under Steve McLaren also for FC20. So it's very, very on brand for what United want. United fans, will kind of help him when he needs time. It's not going to be sterile football. And also United, Louis van Gaal, brilliant coach in his own right. What he did at Barcelona, Jose Mourinho, of course, you guys know what he's all about. His sides he built in 06, 05. Those are all previous eras of football. Whereas Ten Hag, we're looking forward. His best years ahead of him, and I think that's the key point. His best years ahead of him. Whereas Oli wasn't tried and tested, but Louis van Gaal and Mourinho was. So yeah, we're expecting attacking football coming through. We hope anyway. We can only hope.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it'll be an interesting one for sure. Looking forward to seeing what he does at the club, and I'm sure the summer will be very, very busy for Manchester United. But yeah, I think to be fair, this has been talked about for ages, the Ten Hag appointment. I feel like you're right. I feel like everyone who supports Manchester United just wants the season to be over so they can get to the summer, get people in and out, and then just start hopefully refreshing. So I'm sure, for Manchester United, really the season's over. It's just whether you guys can somehow nick fourth, which we'll see. Still time. You never know.